At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
There we go. Microphone is now on. Yes, at least I caught it right on the dot there. I wanted to see, I was actually right before when the ad was going on, I wanted to see what was going on with the precipitation. And for some reason, here we go. Precipitation amounts here in the last 24 hours. I mean, it's not even really picking up on anything. Well, it looks like we got about like 100th here or there out towards Del Norte County this morning. But you're looking at a radar here from the last couple of hours. This first push coming through is very, very weak, and it's producing some sprinkles, some light showers. Nothing terribly measurable at this point. There are a few spots seeing a little bit more rainfall than others, especially out towards the coast this morning. But otherwise, we're starting off dry with mainly overcast skies outside of where we're seeing some of that very light rain. So a lot of this isn't even reaching the grounds, what we call virga. It's a very dry atmosphere that we've been dealing with here. So we've got to really saturate that atmosphere first before that rain kind of makes its way to the surface and eventually even accumulates in some areas. And eventually I do expect some heavier rainfall, and where most of the rain will be on the coast. That's where most of the rain will be. Now this first push, as I said, is very weak. There's a stronger little batch of rain coming through here. We've got Jackie Dixon from Trinidad checking in this morning. She's saying, well, no, that's not it. That was from Friday. Good morning from Trinidad. It's starting to get a little wet already this morning, and absolutely that is going to be the case, and it will get wetter. Taking a look at our Divine Sky Cam here, a Weather NorCal exclusive. Here you can see the overcast skies. Those clouds are starting to kind of overtake Mount Shasta itself off in the distance there. So the clouds are going to thicken up here through the morning, and eventually even a few showers working their way in as well. Taking a look at our Lake Shastina Golf Resort Sky Cam here, sponsored by Elwood Ranch. And you can see, yeah, those clouds kind of overtaking at least the summit of Mount Shasta. But I think eventually we may even see some snowflakes on top of the mountain as well throughout the day today, as we're just starting to see some of that shower activity begin to move in. Now, before we get into the forecast, I got to bring this up, right? This is something that a lot of you saw yesterday and are wondering, what the heck was that? Gorgeous, number one. Right? You can see these wispy rainbows. Now, it had nothing to do with rain. I want you to think about like if you have a crystal, say on your window at home, or even sometimes people have them hanging from their rear view mirrors. So the sun can shine through them just right, Because you'll notice, even if it's sunny out and you have a crystal out there, you may not always see a rainbow. You have to have the right angle of the sun going through that crystal before you start seeing that rainbow. Kind of the same concept here. Think of cirrus clouds as ice crystals. Okay, so when the sun's angle shines through those ice crystals at just that right angle, what do you get? You get what's known as an iridescent cloud. And a lot of you saw that. A lot of you sent those photos through Facebook. This one was actually sent to us by Kimberly Johnson through the free Weather NorCal app. I want to thank her for using the app to send that photo, because that is the easiest way for me to share them with you right here on Weather NorCal. So if you have any photos you want to share, don't forget about the free Weather NorCal app and how easy it is to share those photos from the free Weather NorCal app. Let's get you into your Krueger's Quick Cast for your Monday, June 8th. This is what we've got here. Let's start with those temperatures. Of course, we're seeing some of that light rain along the coast, western Siskiyou, even to parts of Trinity County. Cooler temperatures there as well in the 40s. Still around 60 in Red Bluff, low 60s for places like Chico, Norville, and mid 50s for Redding. Those clouds will be on the increase here throughout the morning hours. Here's a look at your skeeter meter for this week. Latest coming in. No change since last week. It's on a 2 on a scale of 0 to 5, so nothing terrible. But if you do have concerns about mosquitoes in your area, on your property, just call the Shasta Mosquito and Vector Control on the number on your screen, and they should be able to take care of you. Out the door this morning, overcast skies for the most part. Most of the rain will be on the north coast, some of it working its way into western Siskiyou. Parts of Trinity County may see some of those showers. Inland areas, Hoopa, Gasquet, for example, even Garberville, maybe seeing some light showers this morning. But the main cold front, the main batch of moisture is still to the north and west of California. It's just beginning to work its way in this morning. That'll be pushing throughout the morning and afternoon. Now, this is our HRRR forecast model. It updates every hour based on the current conditions and the latest forecast model data. By midday, it's showing most of the rain still along the coast and a few showers trying to work their way into the north end of the valley. That stronger band of rain looks like it'll push through this afternoon for parts of the valley, working its way into the eastern mountains. And still some of those showers, even at 6 o'clock this evening, but I do expect drier and warmer conditions by tomorrow and clearing skies here. Chance for rain in the valley, 20%. Higher chance than that for the coast, but this just kind of shows you that it's today. After today, we're back to dry and some of the warmest temperatures we've seen so far for the year. So here's your Monday forecast. Temperatures mid to upper 70s, even around 80 for some of the warmer spots in the valley. I think many of us in the valley may struggle to get out of the 70s, if at all. For the higher elevations, 60s. For the coast, upper 50s and low 60s. For tonight, upper 50s to around 60 in the valley, 40s for most of the higher elevations, and low 50s for the coast. So let's take a look at that 7-day forecast. I mean, look at that. Starting off with mostly cloudy skies, chance for a sprinkle, a light shower. By the way, don't count on much for the valley. But if you're a roofer, if you work outdoors, do note that through this morning and early afternoon, you may run into some showers. Then by Tuesday, we dry things out, clearing skies. We're back in the 90s by Wednesday, and yes, triple-digit heat later this week. This will be the first triple-digit stretch that we will see so far for the year at this point, at least for the valley. And it's going to be a long stretch too. Temperatures eventually in the mid-60s, even some upper 60s possibly for parts of the coast later this week. There you can see the warmer temperatures for the inland areas and for Trinity County. Now for the mountains, Siskiyou, Moda County, eastern mountains, of course that rain today, especially later this afternoon, warming up. Upper 80s, even some low 90s by the time we get to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All right, so it's hard to believe we're going to be talking about fire weather when it's cool. It's high humidity right now. Wind's not very strong, but that is going to be changing. In fact, it was Saturday that the National Weather Service issued what you see here on your screen. It's a fire weather watch, but it won't take effect until Wednesday and Thursday. This is when we expect some gusty winds, low humidity, and let's not forget about the heat I was just talking about, because that heat will also play a factor in our elevated fire weather risk. So looking at the winds today, All right, a little breezy for some areas, but that's associated with the storm system passing through, weak one, right? But by tomorrow, a little breezy in the eastern mountains, a little breezy along the coast, but overall, not that bad. But now look at the winds on Wednesday. Now we're seeing some strong north winds for the valley in particular. That's the biggest concern, and that's where the strongest winds will be, including Shasta Valley. But our fire weather risk for today is very low. Why? Again, it's cool out, winds aren't very strong, and humidity is nice and high. Now, we take you into Tuesday, humidity levels dropping, but still fairly low fire weather risk. It's Wednesday. Now, here's the thing. You remember I talk about, yellows and oranges. Typically, that's pretty normal for us. Look at the deep, deep oranges and even some reds in there. This is getting into that high fire weather risk category, along with, look at the humidity levels. We're down into the single digits for the valley. Let's take you into Thursday. Same situation. Deep oranges, a little bit of reds in there, single digits for humidity levels. Humidity not as bad, or it's a little bit higher, should I say, in the higher elevations. So it's mainly the valley where we've got that highest risk for fire danger. So that's something we need to take into account. Look at the overcast skies. We do have mainly some high and mid-level clouds. That's why we're really not seeing rain at the current hour. But that may change here later this morning and afternoon. That's our Divine Sky Cam. Taking a look at our Lake Shastina Golf Resort camera, sponsored by Elwood Ranch. Now, you'll note, if you look closely, you'll see some streaks coming from those clouds. That's the rain. It's having a hard time reaching the ground, but there may be some sprinkles, especially in western Siskiyou County at the current hour. We take a look at our Soda Ridge camera, different perspective of Mount Shasta. Those clouds are really starting to kind of cover at least the summit of Mount Shasta. Taking a look at Lassen Park, a little bit more sunshine there. The clouds haven't fully reached and made their way to the eastern mountains just yet, but that'll be changing later this morning and afternoon. I mean, look at Lake Orville, right? We're not seeing a ton of cloud cover out there this morning, but again, that will be changing later this morning and in the afternoon with mostly cloudy skies. Neil Row, we're seeing some peaks of sunshine through some of those clouds that we are seeing out there. Crescent City Harbor District, you see the pavement there? It's wet. Looking underneath that truck, it's dry. So you can see that it really wasn't wet enough to really make a big impact, but they are certainly starting to see at least the beginning phases of the wet weather we're going to see on the coast here off and on throughout the day. Bald Hill West, this is looking down at Hoopa Valley. You can see the overcast skies there, maybe some light showers there this morning as well. Here's a look at Fort Jones. Yes, the rain has made its way down to the surface. You can see the raindrops on the camera there. So yes, we're beginning to see Fort Jones, Scott Valley, western Siskiyou County in general, beginning to see some of that wet weather. Now, Coffee with Krueger, as you may or may not know, would not be possible without our sponsor, Wind River Resort and Casino. At Wind River Resort and Casino, enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. Let's take a look at some of the entertainment that they got going on over there at Wind River. Overtime live, Fridays and Saturdays. So usually they have some kind of live entertainment there. On June 19th, what we're going about 11 days from now, they are going to have their 12th annual Bacon and Brew Fest, and of course some of the live entertainment they got coming up August 14th. Tickets for Tracy Lawrence go on sale June 22nd, so be sure not to miss out on that if you're big fans of those folks. Live entertainment at Wind River Resort and Casino. Once again, I want to thank them for their support. Take a look at our weather headlines. It's going to be a cool and wet start to the work week. And I say wet, yes, for some, especially the coast, that's where the wettest weather will be. Not as wet for everyone else, but still some showers nonetheless. Dry and warmer for the rest of the week. Fire weather watch starting Wednesday, mainly for the valley, some of the surrounding foothills. And our first triple-digit readings of the year are a very good possibility by around Wednesday or Thursday. Let's take a look at your deeper dive forecast for your Monday, June 8th. Now, again, we'll start off with the radar image here. Now, the radar had a hard time kind of picking up on some of the rain because a lot of it was evaporating before really reaching the ground. And a lot of this still is. But we are seeing some of the wet weather in western Siskiyou. Parts of Trinity County are seeing some raindrops as well, and even the North Coast. This is nothing heavy. I just checked before coming on live with you. We saw at best in some areas about 1/100th of an inch of rainfall since this has passed through. So this first little wave is very weak. And by the time it makes its way into the valley, there's a very good chance that none of it will reach the ground. However, as that first push comes through, you may see a sprinkle out towards Redding, out towards the Red Bluff area, but not a big deal. I do expect a little bit more in the way of activity with this right here, more heavier rainfall making its way to the coast later on this morning and into the early afternoon hours. That heavier band of rain will get eaten apart or break apart by the time it does hit that coastal range. But this right here is what's going to be moving through, and I think is going to pack a little bit bigger punch than this first little band coming through, and that's why there's that potential for maybe some light minor accumulating rain, a few hundredths here and there possibly, especially for the north end of the valley. The farther south you go, I'd say the slimmer the chances are for that wet weather. So if you work outdoors, just know that as we go through the morning hours, that chance for at least a little bit of rain begins to move in, but overall it won't be that heavy. Still dry off to the east, so you should be in good shape if you do work outdoors there, at least through the first half of the morning. And then late morning, early afternoon, we may start to see some of those showers begin to push through. Right now, we're sitting in the 50s and 60s for the valley, 30s and 40s for the higher elevations, upper 40s to low 50s for the coast. So this is the main disturbance. I've been talking about this since last week. It's pretty much here right on schedule. We've got a spin of low pressure here. It certainly is moved far enough to the south that some of us are seeing some of that wet weather. Once this pushes off to our east, high pressure is going to start to build in through this week, and that's going to give us significantly warmer weather. We'll get into that in a second. Let's take a look at Futurecast and walk you through the latest forecast model data. So 6 a.m. this morning, there you can see really on target with what we're really seeing right now. Most of the rain is in Trinity, Western Siskiyou, Dale, Norton, Humboldt counties. We're really not seeing anything anywhere else. Cloud cover beginning to work its way into the valley, less cloud cover off to the east. Again, a good representation of what's happening now. Let's take you around midday. There's that second push of moisture I was talking about that's just off the coast right now. This, I think, will be our best chance for some measurable rainfall as we get around midday, early afternoon. Now, what's behind that is very weak. So this is going to bring the heaviest amount of rainfall for the coast this morning. And then there you can see still another little band of showers there. Now, by 5 p.m., that pretty much fizzles out. There's a little bit of activity out towards Modoc County in the eastern mountains by 5 p.m. today, but there you can see just some leftover, I'd even just call it drizzle, sprinkles, maybe a light shower here and there later on this afternoon for the north coast. But look at tomorrow morning, look at tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow morning, clouds, yes, but by the afternoon, those clouds will dissipate very quickly, and I expect more sunshine, dry conditions. As we go into Wednesday, plenty of sunshine, and this is going to be all across the board. The valley, the mountains, inland, even the coast, seeing a lot of sunshine, and this is when we really start to see those temperatures start to ramp up a bit. Now, rainfall estimates, I'd say about a ½ an inch, give or take, for parts of the north coast. This is, again, where we're going to see the most amount of rainfall. You head east of that, you see less and less, right? So, could we see a few hundredths of an inch of rainfall for parts of the valley today? Not out of the question. There's a very good chance we may not even see any raindrops, or at least anything measurable for places like Chico or Willows. Maybe a sprinkle or a light shower, but that's the extent of it. And even off in the eastern mountains, yes, you may see some light measurable rainfall, but nothing significant. So this is typical of a system coming in from the west, working its way eastward. We tend to see the heaviest amount of rainfall along the coast, the coastal range, and then by the time it works its way over the rest of Northern California, it tends to break apart. It tends to be a lot weaker at that point. So here's the cooler air moving in. That's the cooler weather to start off the week. But as that moves off to the east, Wednesday, Thursday, high pressure starts to build in. This is that dome of high pressure. Remember last week I was talking about if you have a nice dome, the center of that dome is where you have the biggest heat. But if you flatten out that dome, it's not going to get quite as hot. Well, we're not flattening out this dome. You can clearly see that dominant ridge that we're seeing. So this is when temperatures are going to really kind of reach that triple-digit mark, probably as early as Thursday, maybe a little bit sooner for some. It sticks around through the weekend and even into early next week. That ridge of high pressure will hold on fairly strong. So this may be a bit of a long stretch of triple digit heat, as you can see here. Once we get into the triple digits, they may hang tight through at least the middle of next week, maybe even longer. We'll see. And not only 100, but we could even see some 105, 106 degree readings during the peak of all this, which will probably be around Friday, Saturday, possibly Sunday, and then kind of hovering around 102 to 103 after that. But I mean, look at the start, right? We're at 77 today in Redding, even still below normal tomorrow, but big spike in those temperatures later on this week. A friendly reminder of when we've seen the earliest 90 degree reading, 100 degree reading, and 110 degree reading. Actually, it was this year, the earliest we saw 90 degrees or higher, which was March 16th of this year with a high of 92. Earliest we've hit 90 degrees or higher. May 4th was in 1992 where we saw 100 degrees. The earliest we saw 100 degrees for the year. June 5th of 1926, we saw a high of 111. That was the earliest we saw 110 or higher. So we are certainly, I'd say, overdue to see some triple digit heat because it's not uncommon for us to see triple digits in May. And here we are in June, and we have yet to hit 100 degrees, but I think that's going to change by the time we get in the next few days. Lake levels, you can see here, still very healthy. If you've been spending any time on the lake, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The lakes are just fine, even though we're still seeing those minor drops here over the last 24 hours. Wave height's not that much of an issue this morning, but they will be changing later this afternoon and for your Tuesday. That's why we have later today a small craft advisory. The winds will eventually pick up out of the south at about 20 to 25 knots. Here's your neighborhood forecast sponsored by Dignity Health and Grange Co-op. All right, let's go ahead and start off with Trinity County, where we've got, of course, the overcast skies. Temperatures upper 60s for today. You've got that wet weather in the forecast as well. Some showers, and then again, the heaviest rainfall will be on the coast. There you can see temperatures around 60, upwards of a half an inch, give or take, for many of you along the coast. Even some of the inland areas could see some decent amounts of rainfall as well. Dries out, but still some clouds to start off the day on Tuesday, and then more sunshine and even some mid-upper 60s later this week for the coast. Now for the inland areas, you're talking mid to upper 90s by the end of the week, maybe some triple digits as early as Friday, and of course this weekend. For Siskiyou County, starting off with a few light showers, say for Scott Valley westward this morning, and eventually seeing some showers possibly throughout the rest of the morning and afternoon. Temperatures increasing upper 80s by the end of the week, low 90s by the weekend. Modoc County, you're dry for now, but that could change here, especially by midday afternoon. And then by Tuesday, we're starting to warm back up, upper 80s for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So yeah, big heat wave in store for us for the valley. Not as much of a heat wave for the rest of Northern California. It's not going to be terribly hot in many of the higher elevations. Looking at your forecast for the valley, temperatures may reach that upper 70 degree mark, maybe even around 80 for places like Chico. I put the word chance in there for Monday, for today. That's just because the chances are pretty slim that you'll see anything measurable. But if you see a sprinkle or a stray light shower, don't be surprised. Otherwise, you're dry, warmer, 102 by Thursday. Yes, by Thursday. 77 degrees. Now, I think many of us in the valley may struggle to get out of the 70s, if at all, really. 77 degrees for Redding. Red Bluff, again, that might be pushing it at 80, but you get the idea. It's going to be a pretty nice start to the week. Temperatures in the upper 90s by Wednesday, and you know, we may even touch 100 degrees as early as Wednesday, but it looks like Thursday is when that's really all going to start. And then we're going to be looking at 103 degrees or higher. And again, let's not forget about that fire weather risk that we'll be looking at here. Wednesday, Thursday, there's a fire weather watch for the valley due to high winds, due to low relative humidity, and the heat is going to play a factor in that as well. So let's just be aware and mindful of that and keep that in the back of our minds. Even though we're starting off nice and cool this morning, we've got some wet weather out there, and that will be the case through the afternoon. It is going to be a completely different story as we go into the next few days. Let's have a little bit of fun out there and see if there's anything on the national calendar. I should have got this kind of set up before I did that, but let's see here. Calendar, National Calendar Day. There it is. I had a lot of fun with you all on Friday with the donuts. That was so much fun. I got to hang out with a buddy of mine, Aaron, out at Tattoos Inc., and we kind of tried a couple of apple fritters, did a little taste test. All right, so today is, let's see, what is today? Here we go. They kind of changed up everything here. Let's see here. If we can take all of these out, we can't. Today's national days. See 3 more. All right. Well, here we go. Let's start with that. I'll go. Here we go. Today is National Best Friends Day. So do you have a best friend? Maybe spend some extra time with them today. National Upsy Daisy Day, or Oopsie. Is it Oopsie or Upsy? No, I guess it's Upsy Daisy. I always think of Oopsie Daisy. I've never heard of the word Upsy Daisy. But Oopsie Daisy I've heard of. Okay. National Name Your Poison Day. I guess that would be alcohol. Which, if you nickname alcohol poison, I think that says something about alcohol, right? Probably not the best thing for you. But, you know, what do you do? What do you do? There you go. All right. Well, again, there's another look at your 7-day forecast, kind of a reminder of just how hot it is going to be. I didn't get a chance to say hello to Curtis Brown. Good morning. Don't have much of a mosquito problem, but I do get a lot of bites from, I forget how you say that. I think it's no-see-ums, but yes, they itch badly, 100%. Yeah, that's especially, a lot of people kind of tend to have problems with those when they go out like hiking or backpacking. All those things are awful. I'm allergic to their bites. So Tracy is responding to Curtis Brown. But Chase is also saying, hope everyone has a great day. And thank you. Thank you, Tracy, for checking in this morning. Thank you all for checking in this morning as well. I hope you all have a great Monday. Yes, it's Monday. It's going to be a nice, cool start. Enjoy the cooler weather. Maybe go for a hike. Even if it gets a little wet out there, it should be pretty nice, is what I'd say. Because by the time we get into Thursday in particular, yeah, triple digits will be working their way back into the forecast. Well, let's leave you with a couple of cameras here before we sign off. And you have yourselves a great Monday. I'll see you tomorrow right here on Coffee with Krueger at 6:30. By the way, of course, meteorologist Aurora Murray. She'll have your midday update and your evening update. She'll keep you updated with what's going on with that rain. Give myself a little bit of time off here through the rest of the day today before I'm back at full force for your Tuesday. Have a great Monday, and we'll see you tomorrow.